Welcome to the What's Your Story podcast with host Ron Coughlin. This podcast dives into the exciting world of AI for marketers. Each episode, we chat with marketing leaders and educators who are using AI to transform their strategies. Get ready to discover how AI is revolutionizing marketing and learn how you can leverage these powerful tools. Once again, this is the What's Your Story podcast, your guide to navigating the AI-powered digital landscape. Looking forward to the discussion. Hey everybody, welcome back to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm your host, Ron Coughlin, this week on the Gen AI version of What's Your Story. And this is a podcast focused on helping companies, marketers, CEOs make their lives easier with Gen AI or AI. And I have lots of great guests on, and this is also the case this week. We have a guest, Nicole Gallucci, and she is a wonderful guest to have on here because she's really about, she has a non-traditional agency where she helps a lot of individuals create, frameworks around how they should live their lives and also using AI to do that. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you.
It's really great you could join us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, I haven't done you much justice. Maybe you could give us a little background, a little story of who you are, how your business started, and what you guys do, and what you're all about.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it. I usually like to start off with the title of Queen of the Universe, but I'll take it down a couple of notches today. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
As I'm here and honestly being my son's partner in crime, I'm visiting my son and being, I think, his slave. So here we are, totally different.
You can cook for him now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so great to meet you and great to meet you, everybody out there. And, my story started off at Nestle in very traditional consumer packaged goods. And then I had the great pleasure of managing a joint venture between Nestle and Coke, which then jettisoned me into the opportunity to do a startup agency for a holding company. And we launched Boom and rose it to amazing success. And I'm super proud of the work that the team and I did during those years. And then, as all things do, people and agencies and mandates and values shift. And I would say the holding company and I were no longer aligned on the very important value of managing and inspiring and motivating our people. And so I left there and did the same thing again with another agency where I became a partner right away. And then as I was doing that, I had the opportunity to guest lecture, to do some consultancy, and that morphed into where I am today, where I would say I'm a full-time prof, full-time business strategist, full-time, doing all the things that now, fill your cup, provide fulfillment, and help us all live and work better in this ever-changing, crazy world right now.
Very good. I'm a prof too at George Brown College.
Okay. You and I
We're
haven't crossed paths. I'm a
no.
prof at George Brown.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
See, there you go, everybody. This is what happens. It's a big, small world.
Yeah. I know. So, changing times there right now, unfortunately,
Very.
for lots of people. But anyway, so this world of AI, how are you using it to help your clients to live a better life and make their lives easier?
I think that's a great question. And so if my children were here or my students, they would say I'm an addict. So I'm an eager early adopter and really am using it to, I would say, allow me to take stress off. So it's literally doing tasks that normally would take, a few days, maybe a few weeks, and literally do them in an hour. And I love that. And I think it just allows us to take away the mundane tasks. So it's not doing the high level thinking. We're still required to do the high level thinking. And, I think everybody's panicking out there over it's going to take away all our jobs and all of that. I'm not finding that it's taking away our jobs. What I'm finding is it's increasing the expectation to move more quickly. And so
Mm.
where historically, you would get a brief or somebody would come to you with a challenge, you would have a week or two at a minimum. Now you've got a day or two. And, let's be honest, that started to happen when all of the social platforms first came into being. We used to spend way back in the day a year creating a television commercial. And now we create ads in moments. We put them out there in the different social media platforms. We get results within hours. and then we iterate and make changes. So I think that everybody has to kind of take a step back and not realize that AI is the monster, but rather we've been pushing all of the data that we have all been creating in this direction. And we have actually been demanding more and more and more of every area of our lives. 40 years ago, drive through didn't exist. And now, we go through drive through, we don't like it if we have to wait in line, for a few minutes. So I think the impatience level has what's caused the rise in the expediency of everything. And I think it's just caused the pace of work to be faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that my son works for an agency called the Influence Agency,
We're very
and
familiar.
he's just using AI all the time, but it's caused him to get more clients put on his back because of that situation. But he's
Exactly.
managing it, and it's helping him get it through it. So this idea of work-life balance is kind of what you've been preaching out there, and you have a framework called the Blueprint framework.
Mhm.
Maybe you could explain a little bit about that framework and how you use it, and how AI also helps you increase your time for the most important things in life.
Fair points. Okay, so let me break this into three pieces here. So let's talk about the blueprint. So the blueprint framework came into being when I literally had just turned 40 and thought I had a tiger by the tail in terms of living my fairy tale life, only I didn't. And so I very quickly became overnight a single mom with three kids. And my ex husband and I have a great relationship now. We obviously didn't at the time, but my life,
Yeah.
in my opinion, completely shattered. And yet my business life was flourishing. And so you look at the discontinuity between the two and you're like, okay, how do I get my life on track? And I started talking to coaches, taking seminars, and reading all the self help books. And what I found was none of them connected all of the dots. So they didn't take into consideration our entire life, which is very different from our business life. In our business life, we look at all the characteristics and the parameters in our business life, and then we create a business plan and a strategy. And we check in on it daily, weekly, monthly, and we have annual plans, and so it occurred to me that there was nothing that was an annual plan, let alone a long term plan for our personal lives. Sure, everybody does vision boards, and I'm a big proponent of that. But you have to go a few steps deeper and actually do the work and land the plan. We often talk about those who achieve their goals are the ones who actually write the goal down and create the milestone pathway to achieving that goal. And so none of that existed. It existed in bits and pieces, but it wasn't cohesive. And so the purpose of the Life Blueprint model was actually selfish. It was for me to now create a cohesive plan for myself. And it took several iterations and lots of time. And I started to really lay it all out and write it all out. And as I did that, my kids noticed, and I would say they're half in, half out, like normal kids. They do it all now, which I find so funny. And my students started to ask me questions about it because I started to talk about it. And then peers started to ask me about it, and I started to coach on it, and I started to teach it, and I created courses to teach it, which then evolved into the book. And so I'm very thankful when it launched on Amazon. We got bestseller right away. And I then morphed it into How to Do Life, which I should have brought copies of to show you, the workbook version. And so you can literally fill it in as opposed to reading and going back to the worksheets online. And so that then became, a big conversation on people asking me, okay, people all want to know what's my purpose and what's work life balance. That's what they all want to know. Interestingly enough, in the book, purpose is talked about on page 111, which is there's some serendipity to that, but it's halfway in the book. And so, I think we all want to talk about our purpose right up front, but you got to do some work before you get to your purpose, which brings me to work life balance. We live in our purpose when we are fulfilled. Fulfillment is not necessarily derived from balance, but from living fully every single day. When you live fully, you are you are living in the present and you are still building towards the future. So you're growing and living and enjoying every single day. And that's where fulfillment comes from. People who are fulfilled don't talk about work life balance. So when you're doing work that you actually enjoy doing, it blends into your life. And I think this is where the work life balance conversation filters away. I'm going to tell you, if somebody looked at my day, at my life, I have zero probably life balance versus the work balance. But I'm sitting having this conversation with you in New York City. I have the great pleasure of being able to work remotely today and for the next couple of days. My son lives here. And so for me, this is work life balance. I'm doing work that I love in the presence of someone that I love and being able to go for walks and grab a coffee and do all those things. So for me, that's fulfillment. Everybody has to decide for what fulfillment looks like for them. I think we're all in pursuit of this word happiness. And to me, happiness is that dopamine rush, and we all have it. We all have moments of happiness. I think the expectation to live at that high level is too big of an expectation for all of us. But to live fully every single day and be able to do work you enjoy, as well as enjoy those around you, I think, in my opinion, is a more balanced goal. And so that's where my whole philosophy on work balance comes into play in the blueprint method. But that's really getting to the root of, you know, what your purpose is, and then defining the pathway to get there, defining your goals, and defining your values. And as you do that, the path that you lay forward feels, first of all, much more achievable. And in fact, I have proof with the people that I work with that it's achievable. But second of all, it feels like you can actually take that breath and you can have some peace and work through everything, and it's all going to be okay. It doesn't mean you're not going to come to a crossroads in the process. And there could be, COVID, a war, all of these different things that happen. You can have crisis in your own life, but you can also have great opportunity in your own life. And I think this is where having this plan in place and feeling fulfilled as you're in pursuit of it allows you to decide how you're going to move forward in the direction of that opportunity or challenge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, work-life balance is an old concept, but in today's world, it's even more important, obviously, with all the distractions. One of those distractions is social media and our phones, and we can't put them down, and it's becoming a problem. But when you think about your role and the company that you have when you're coaching others, and you think about generative AI, you know, how are you coaching them on how to create more balance uh, with this situation, with all the interruptions and everything that's coming at us today?
That's a great question. So I answer that in a couple of ways. I have this book that I keep on my bookshelf when I am coaching. It was written in 1906 by Walter Chesterton. And the title of the book is What is Wrong with the World Today? When you go through the book, there's a whole bunch of issues that are wrong with the world today. So it's quite interesting that we fast forward to 2026 and we're asking the same questions. What is wrong with people? And you would think at this point, in fairness, that we would probably be a little smarter, a little better. But I think, we're constantly, new generations are born with a new set of challenges and we're still human. And so we respond to them in our own ways. So from that perspective, you look at the speed at which things are coming at us all the time. I do start when I'm coaching everyone and I ask them to show me their calendar. And you look and this sounds, said no one ever, let's go to the bar, excuse me, and chat about time management. But in fact, work life balance, as we just talked about, and managing all the things that are coming at us begins with really understanding our values and how we use our time. I share with everybody, if you tell me your values and you show me your calendar and you show me your credit card statement or your bank statement, not because I want to see the numbers, that tells me your values. And so if we look at our calendar, I think we have to really manage when we work, when we play, when we exercise. Are we taking our supplements? Are we doing all the things that ensure that we're actually living the healthy life under our own terms that we want? So you decide what that is. And I'm not here to preach that for anyone. That's definitely what you decide on your own terms. And then as you are looking at work has constantly changed. I mean, 30 years ago, we didn't have, oh my God, like you and I were in the days of when the internet was just coming. Guys, we didn't have laptops. We didn't have mobile phones where I just went and got us a coffee, and I tap my phone. This is not a mobile phone. This is a mobile device. It just does a million things. I always tell everybody else. it is also a phone. So you can also call your mom and dad, probably,
Yeah.
or to text them.
Yeah,
I like
they
to
don't
hear
like
you.
to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the issue with the pace is that, yeah, this has gone from being a very simple tool to a very complicated and or comprehensive tool, which gives us unbelievable autonomy. And in that autonomy, we've caused a pace issue. But to be clear, we put it in our hands. It doesn't say hold me or take me with you. We, by virtue of how we use it, we automatically take it with us. And so, by virtue of that, I think that we're always on, but we choose when we want to be on. So, rightly or wrongly, I can easily go down a social media hole, rabbit's hole. I'm a pottery person at heart. And so I can fall into all of the reels and all of those things very easily. So I think, I put a time limit on mine. I also use it with discretion during the day so that I'm focused on my work. I think that the real issue that we have is not really a matter of volume necessarily, but choosing how we focus. And I think it's really the distraction that's our big issue. So I think it's really hard to be like, okay, I am present with you now for the next hour. So what does that mean? So that means that my phone is actually not turned so I can see the faces, so that I'm not distracted. It means that, please God, I didn't turn off my notifications, so anything could happen while we're here. But I think it's trying to really teach yourself to be focused and present in this moment and do that work, which is all easier said than done. So my whole point to everyone when I'm coaching them through this is, let's organize your calendar. Let's put in the appropriate blocks of time for you to do everything. And so I have certain days of the week I don't start till 10 o'clock, because from 6 till 10, I have certain things that I want to do before I begin my day that allow me to come in and show up as my best self. And then I have certain days of the month where I have time blocked off to do certain reports that I have to do, etc. And I hold those as sacred as if I was hold a important doctor's appointment. So I look at it that way. And then I put in family events, and I personally wouldn't want to miss a family event or an opportunity to spend time with a loved one, because those are the things that I think give, when you read about people having regrets, those are always their biggest regrets. So I would say, when you look at your calendar, as we optimize how we live every single day, we build a calendar that lets you have the fulfilling, least regretful life.
Yeah, those are very good points. And so thinking about that and thinking about leaders and marketing and out there, a lot of marketers obviously are responsible for developing the strategy. And there's been
Mhm,
an evolution of strategy with AI,
mhm.
and this rapidly changing marketplace out there. So how does companies today incorporate AI into this overall business planning process and strategy development?
That's a great question. So I led an AI session with a company, and we've had two sessions, and now we're going into breakout one-on-ones where I'll be working with each person. And they were literally like, well, what tools do I use? And you've just shared with us all these tools. And so I've said to everybody, step one, start using a tool. Start using a tool and start talking, and specifically, to the marketing people and the business leaders that are out there. Start using the tool, and start using a tool, first of all, and use it the same way you would talk to a brand new admin assistant. So think of it that way. And if you think of it that way, and it doesn't matter what level in the organization you're at, if you are an admin assistant, train it as though you're training a new admin assistant, and literally talk to it and say, well, this is that I say to everybody, because everybody's like, well, talk to me about prompts and what's the right prompt. I'm like, you know what? Do you remember in elementary school when you were taught who, what, where, why, when, and how? Do that. Put that in your prompt. This is who I'm talking to. This is what I need. This is why I need it. This is where my head's going. And honestly, just blurt it out there. Don't worry about your sentence structure and your grammar. Blurt it out there. I think the good news with so many of the tools now as well is, if you're not a typer and you're a speaker, speak it into it. You can speak into it for hours if you want. And so teach it that way about what you want and who you are, and then let it give you an answer back. And the thing is, it might give you a great answer back, but you might want to also continue the dialogue. It might not give you back exactly what you expected. And so I think what we all have to remember is, it's a tool. It's like, a carpenter goes into a hardware store and buys a hammer and nails. He takes them out and he wants to frame the house. He doesn't put the hammer and nails on the ground and say, go to it. He picks up the wood, he picks up the hammer, he picks up the nails, and so begins the process of building the frame of the house. AI is this amazing tool, but it can't work without you. It's useless. It sits there on your dashboard or in your mobile device. So it is only going to be as effective as what you give it. I think this is what everybody has to realize is that as marketers, as leaders, as strategists, you can't you can say to it, think like a strategist. And what it's going to do is it's going to be like, okay, think about if somebody said that to you, think like a strategist. It's going to think about, I got to think of a business plan. I got to think of the numbers. I got to think of the competition. It's going to think of all the basics that we think about, but it's not going to know how to analyze it and then put it together with the same wisdom that we have of the world. It's not going to take in all the world context and the target and all the different tentacles. It's literally a spider's web that we have to pull at. What it's going to be good at is doing some research for us and helping provoke things that we may not have thought of. So I really think of it as a method of provoking things for me and a great partner in crime in brainstorming. So when I have an idea or something, it often will tell me, well, that's a great idea. And I'm like, no, come on. We both know that's not a great idea. So don't patronize me. But, like, let's rip apart. I fed a P&L into it the other day. And literally said, I need to present this P&L to a board of directors, rip it apart. Well, it went to town. So,
Yeah.
I think that's how we have to use it is as leaders is literally a tool, but you have to activate the tool.
No, it's very true. I always say garbage in, garbage out, right? So
100%.
if you are not giving the right prompts, the right information, it won't give you what you're looking for. Um,
Exactly. True of human life. None of us would hire a builder and say, build me a house. We would say, because he's going to say, what kind of house do you want? Well, one bedroom, six bedroom? So it's the
yeah,
same thing. And I think people forget that. Like they get so nervous. No need to be
yeah.
nervous.
No, that's so true. Now, one of the things that's come up in many of the discussions I have on the What's Your Story podcast is this idea of ethics and AI,
Sure.
and one of my previous guests talked about the biases that
Mhm.
are within that area. Um, could you just enlighten us on what your
Sure.
perspective is of
Yeah.
this kind of topic?
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of my clients is actually a publisher, and they publish an online news portal every single morning. So there's new, different daily news, weekly news, monthly news, and so ethics is a big deal for them. And so one of the things we talked about was sourcing. So when we look at the large language models, the big challenge that they have is that it is garbage in, garbage out. So, you and I could be asked a question or have been asked a question and have, as a result, our answers are somewhere in the ether. And it may have asked, hey, is it a beautiful day today where you are? What's the temperature? And, what is your prognosis of the day? And your answer would be one set of answers, and my answer would be another set of answers. Neither is right nor wrong. There is a degree of subjectivity to both of our answers and at the fact that we're in two different spaces. So when you think about that in the spirit of the large language models, the challenge that we're facing is that some people have fed two different sets of information. There are, of course, people who have gone in and said, have said, no, the world doesn't work this way and have been complete contrarians for the purpose of debunking it. But that is true of everything. Do you know what I mean? So, you read one set of documents and it says have 8 glasses of water a day. You read another one, it says you can have water toxicity. I'm like, oh dear God. So where is the truth? So I think the truth is when you're asking it for information and you're looking for facts, that you ask to source it. And then in the process of sourcing, you actually check the source. So I think that's one piece. In terms of ethics, we talk a lot about transparency and authenticity. And I think I can definitely tell, and probably because I am a bit of an AI addict, that when things have been written with AI, because of just the way the punctuation flows, the way the language flows, and if you know the person, you start to know how they speak. So The flip side to that is that their thoughts are coming across in a way that is now become standard operating practice for how we talk. When you watch a newscast, they all talk in the same sort of tones and they take pauses. So I think it's kind of funny because I feel like AI has adopted a way of breaking out our sentence structure. So when you think of the ethics of that and authenticity, to me, those that are going to survive and thrive through all of those are those who show up consistently every day and are sharing valuable information. So, how has that changed from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? The people that we respect and follow are the ones who, and I'm going to use Seth Godin, we're marketers. Let's use Seth Godin. The guy has written 42 million over exaggeration on my part, different
Yeah.
posts every single day. And he writes every single day. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, if you send Seth an email, you get a response from Seth, and you can tell it's a Seth response. So why do I think he's authentic? Because he's consistent. He has said since when he first started writing, this is who I am and what I do. He's survived.com. He's survived the social platforms, and he's going to survive AI as he shows up. This is who I am. This is how I operate. So I would say follow those who are operating consistent with how you want to grow and succeed. For the younger generation that's listening, I'm a big Hormozy fan. Alex Hormozy gets on there in his, tank top, his special band-aid over his nose because he can't breathe properly. And he talks to us just like this. He talks, and so you come to expect real talk. And his wife is the same. So for those of you in the younger generation, I strongly suggest you follow him. He's definitely not your generation's or Seth Godin. He's a different play on it. But,
Yeah.
again, it's authenticity. So it's how we expect to show up and show up that way.
Yeah, one of the things you said earlier is about, you know, what you feed in, is important.
So
But I'm finding when using AI, especially I have a platform that I use called Character.ai. It was a
good,
platform developed by a Google employee that Google didn't want to develop it, so Alphabet, and so he just left and developed this.
good for him.
And so you can create characters in it and define it. And I created a digital marketer, and I interviewed the digital marketer on this podcast.
Love that.
It was awesome, except it lied. So it told a story because it wanted to please me, right?
Isn't
So
that
most of the
interesting?
algorithms and models and marketing and, Meta and everywhere else, you're trying to serve content that people want to see and please them. The same biases exist in AI, and
They
so
do.
yeah. I
Oh,
also invited this character into one of my online classes,
oh my God, that's hysterical.
and she said she'd show up, and she didn't show up. So we called her, and I asked her why she didn't show up. She goes, "I'm here. I'm in the class." And I go, "No, you're not. Because if you are, I want you to speak in the class." Didn't speak in the class.
Oh my
So
God.
the,
Just like a normal person.
so then she apologized. "I'm sorry, I must have been mistaken. Something went wrong." Like she just, but she
That is
apologized. But anyway,
hysterical. Well, I will
yeah.
just add one more comment to this, because everybody talks about hallucinations. There is a platform. So,
Hmm.
if you're okay for me to share, so I'm a
Absolutely.
notebook LM lover. What I
Yes.
love about Notebook is that you can literally create a workbook and you put the files in it that you want it to use to then generate, to help
Mm,
you generate documents or whatever you need faster. So, in the world of business strategy, what I loved is that using my P&L example, I didn't put my P&L into ChatGPT. I put it into Notebook, and I used
mm,
Notebook's version of, which is a Google product, of then tearing apart my P&L with respect to the business plans and the other business files that I had in there. So I didn't ask. Now, Notebook has the capability to go out and search the World Wide Web if you want it to and do all those things. I didn't ask it to do that. I asked it to stay in my, in my particular workbook and then come back. So there are ways to protect yourself from hallucinations.
mm.
Obviously, the only way you can do that is to actually have some content yourself that you're having it evaluate. But I think that that's for people who are nervous out there. You can serve it up some documents and then ask it to tumble it for you. But you know
Mm.
what? This is what drives me crazy. People are like, "Well, things are hallucinating." Dear God, if we had 10 marketers here, there'd be 10 hallucinations. You know what I mean? Like everybody had, if you sat at a dinner table with your family, and there's 10 people, there'd be 10 hallucinations. So everybody has their own slant on everything. I think where we are expected to be factual. But I would say that's true of life. So check your source,
Yeah.
and I think nobody knows everything. So we all have subjectivity built in. So if you want to be objective, get the facts.
So, Nicole, if you had I guess, a magic ball and you could
I
predict
do
the
have a
future.
crystal ball, Ron.
Oh,
I
you do?
do, for real. I didn't bring it with me because I'm traveling, but I do actually have a crystal ball.
Well, if you could pop that out and use it, what would you tell our audience of how you think AI is going to be in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years? What is it going to do for us? How is it going to evolve? How will it help marketers? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think what it's gonna do is I do think it's going to it's not, I wish I'd love to say it's an evolution because I think so many things have been evolutions. I do think it's a bit of a revolution because of the pace. I think we're driving the pace. I got super frustrated a week ago because it wasn't regenerating my PowerPoint slides the way I had it in my head.
Yeah.
And so as a result, I found tools that were actually going faster than a tool that I was using started to iterate and was getting even better. So I think we're forcing this pace of change. And I think we have to take ownership to this. And I think that's really hard for everybody to realize that we have caused the shift from this being a phone to a mobile device. I mean, it's a camera. It's all these different banking tools. It's all these different things all in one. So I think we have to recognize we are causing the pace of change in the world that is actually happening. So when you look at fast forward to where we're going to go, I think it's going to eliminate some of the mundane, some of the things we don't like doing, some of the things like balancing our bank account, keeping track of our taxes on a more regular basis, uh, you know, helping to organize our grocery bills and our grocery products that we need. And so I think it's going to allow us to be more efficient and effective. And as a result of that, I do think it gives us the choice how we want to allocate our time. So if you want to spend your more time doing one thing or another, it's going to be like, okay, so let's take these things off your plate so that you can do these other things. So I think it's going to enhance how we network and connect and have
Mhm.
resources with each other, all of those pieces. So I think of it as, if you look at the good in things, you will see the good and you could be Elon Musk made a quote the other day and I wish I'd written it down, but he said I could think positively and be an optimist and be wrong, or I could think negatively and be a pessimist and be right. And he said, I'd rather think positively and be wrong. So, in this particular case, as I look at the future and I look at the rapidity of AI development, I think that we can use it positively for the purpose of giving us more time to do the things that we choose to do. So maybe now
Mhm.
you're finally going to write that book you want to write. And, somebody's going to write a screenplay because they've been able to carve some stuff. Somebody's going to grow a better garden, or learn and explore. And so I think it just, if used properly, true of anything, it allows you to live hopefully a more fulfilling life.
Well, that's a great way to end our session today. I think that everything you've said is really helping people, kind of get grounded and to have a more focused approach and one that looks at your ethics and values and more holistically. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so this is the What's Your Story podcast. I invite you all to like it, share it, subscribe to it, download it. It really does help us out here. And I want to thank you today, Nicole, for joining us. And maybe we'll run into each other at George Brown College. Who knows?
Definitely, definitely.
In
Don't
the
chuck me in
future
the hole. So
that's
great
fine.
meeting you. And thank you very much for being here. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll be
Have a
chatting
great
with you
day.
soon.